We're celebrating Pie Week here at the Home Cooking Kitchen, and we're going to celebrate not only the mathematical equation of 3.14, or other words, March 14th, why not, any excuse for pies. Every good pie begins with a pie crust, and a flaky, flavorful pie crust is a key to that last bite that you're taking of whatever your filling is. I've made this video separate in case you're going to use a ready-made pie crust, which, you know, don't feel bad. If you make a pie, nobody's going to turn it down because you didn't make the crust, trust me. So we're going to start off with 10 tablespoons of unsalted butter. If all you have is salted butter, then just don't add the salt in a minute. The reason we do that is to control that salt. And we just want to cube it into about a 1/2 inch. So we're just going to cut it like this. This is going to be the butter that gets added in a little bit to our pie crust. If the butter stays intact, it's rise up better and give you that really yummy butter flavor. So we're going to put these guys in here. We're going to pop him back into the refrigerator. And the reason we're doing this first is to allow this to chill. We also are going to have another cold component of ice water. So we're going to cut these into about 1/2 inch. And we're going to place this guy into the refrigerator. We're going to start with the dry ingredients. Like any baking that we do, you always start with the dry, add the wet. And our recipe calls for 1.5 cups of flour, but we're going to use 3/4 cup first. The reason we want to divide that up is so that when we start to process in some of that butter, it's going to have a lot of opportunity to hydrate this flour. Then we're going to slowly add in some more. So we are going to add in some more in a moment. So we're going to start with 3/4 of a cup of flour. And I'm just using a 1/4 cup measurement here and doing the, you know, swoopy thing. You could weigh this out. You know, sometimes we use grams and stuff, but I thought we're kind of in a old recipe. We're going to do it the old way. You know what's interesting though is that our grandparents made these tremendous foods and they had nothing but a coffee cup and a spoon, right? So we're going to add our salt, and the salt is 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then 1 tablespoon of sugar. I'm using white granulated sugar. You could use natural sugar in this, and I've tried it. However, it adds a little too much crunch, I think, to the crust. So we're going to do the same, and you can do the same thing that you do here, you know, just level it off if you want to be really precise. Pie crusts are kind of that baking that you can be off just a little bit, I think. Add the lid to this and just begin to pulse this together just so that all of our dry ingredients are combined. We're going to start adding the fats to this, and we're going to add 8 ounces of the cubed butter. Now remember, we've had this in the refrigerator so that, you know, it'll stay pretty cold. We want to avoid over mixing this. Remember that the blades from this create friction. Friction creates heat. So we're only going to pulse it for about 30 seconds. And you can see it's nice and cold. It's imperative that this stay cold. Now remember, we don't have all our flour in here yet. So we're just going to add about 2 tablespoons to begin with and let this pulse through. Now you start to see this starting to look a little bit like cornmeal, and we're close. We're going to add in another tablespoon. Now we're going to add in the rest of that flour. We're going to let this sit for just a few minutes. I'm going to do a 1/4 cup at a time, and I don't want to heat this up too much, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a go. We want that to hydrate all the way through, and this crust is going to go back in the refrigerator and sit for a couple hours. And you can make your filling while that crust is doing that. So you want to get this all brought together. As you see, this crust is now starting to come together, and it's going to start to form a ball. And we don't want to process it any further than that. So we're going to take our little ball of dough out. We're going to put him in some plastic wrap. Let go. We're going to put them in some plastic wrap, turn them into about a 5-inch flat. So I like to get this, put him on 1/2, and just give it a little bit of a squish. We want this to be round. If it starts off round, it ends up round. We want it to be about 5 inches. So we're gonna just press him out. Put him in the refrigerator for a couple hours. Now you can keep this pie dough for 2 or 3 days. You can even freeze it like this. So if you want to get pie dough out later to make a pie, you don't have to make it. And yes, you can double and triple this recipe easily. So we've got our round, it's about 5 inches, and he's going to go in the refrigerator and he's going to stay for 2 hours.